Right now, though, I want to welcome to the program the author of The Amateur, Barack Obama in the White House. Very pleased to have with us Mr. Edward Klein. Edward, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Your book has done extraordinarily well. You're former foreign editor of Newsweek, former editor-in-chief of the New York Times Magazine, contributing editor of Vanity Fair. So I have to say, like right off the bat, I think that one of the things that is so interesting is that you're not approaching this from the perspective of perhaps what a lot of critics of the president would be approaching this. You know, you're not a known conservative name necessarily, a guy who might hold a grudge against the president.
Well, Ronald Reagan said famously that he didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left him. Well, I didn't leave the mainstream media. The mainstream media left me. When I was at Newsweek and I was at the New York Times, it was quite a long time ago, and they were what I call straight down the middle publications back then. Since I left, both of them have lurched really over to the left. That's not where I stand.
As we've seen with Newsweek's new cover, The Wimp Factor.
Yeah, which is really disgusting, in my view.
Absolutely. So you have this piece of the Daily Caller, Getting Inside the Mind of Barack Obama, which I think it's funny. First of all,
it was meant to be funny.
But some really serious points here. I mean, you talk about more than 100 fundraisers since the campaign began, double the number that George W. Bush had held at this time in the 2004 presidential race. And you say, in Barack Obama's mind, despite Sarah Jessica Parker and Anna Wintour, the fat cats on Wall Street are sitting on their wallets, and I can't keep up with Mitt on the money front. He's going to bury me in dollars. We saw the story. I don't know if you saw the story today, but apparently an analyst, I guess at Morgan Stanley, says Wall Street is starting to make their bets on a Romney victory in November, which, great timing when you wrote this piece a couple days ago, Edward.
Well, thank you. When I talk to people on Wall Street, when I talk to people in the medical profession, when I talk to people in small businesses, when I talk to African American businessmen and political leaders, I get the same story over and over and over again. Why in the world did I vote for this guy in 2008? And I'm not going to vote for him again because, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's an amateur. He's out of his depth. And whatever he has accomplished has just made the recession worse and deepened the pain and suffering of the American people.
You talk about Barack Obama making his gaffe and saying that people who got a business didn't build that, somebody else made that happen.
Right.
There's been a lot of talk over the past couple of weeks that this wasn't really a gaffe. I mean, Elizabeth Warren said something very similar. Barack Obama has made similar comments.
Well, you're right. It wasn't a gaffe. That's a good point you're making. When you look at Barack Obama's past, not so long ago past, by the way, just a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, he was his most important relationship other than his wife was with the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. He spent hours and hours, hundreds of hours with Jeremiah Wright. Jeremiah Wright is one of the leaders in America of black liberation theology, which preaches that there is an oppressor class, whites, and an oppressed class, blacks, and that in order to change that, you need to redistribute the wealth in the country and the power in the country. That's exactly what Barack Obama has been saying during his campaign in 2008 and ever since. And you're right, when he said you didn't build that, he really doesn't believe in capitalism with a capital C. He wants to put a cap on capitalism.
And Edward, I mean, we're seeing, I think the mainstream media sort of aid and abet this. I saw a story earlier today, Elizabeth Warren calling herself a champion of capitalism.
Yeah, right.
And again, is the mainstream media going to talk about what capitalism really means?
As you pointed out at the beginning of our conversation, I used to be a member of the mainstream media, and therefore I have an awful lot of friends, most of them former friends now that I've written this book, who are members of the mainstream media. And I have to tell you, I don't believe that they will ever give the conservative point of view an even shake. There's this kind of club-like atmosphere here in New York City where I live, and out on the West Coast as well, where you cannot stray from, drinking that liberal Kool-Aid and espousing those points of view. And if you do, you're just shunned and you're immediately kicked out of the club. So if you want to be part of the mainstream media club, you got to toe the line. And so they're never going to call Elizabeth Warren on this stuff, because if they do, they'll get kicked out of the club.
Have you ever seen it as bad as we're seeing it right now?
Never. And Bernie Goldberg said it very well when he said that, the members of the media have always been on the liberal side and have been rooting privately and secretly or in their heart of hearts, for the left. But they realized that they had a professional duty to tell the truth as they saw it dispassionately and without any fear or favor. But that's no longer the case. Now the mainstream media is not only rooting for one side, but is actually playing on that side and is doing everything in its power to make Barack Obama's reelection campaign a success.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's something that really saddens me because, people get a lot of their information from the mainstream media, and if it weren't for shows like yours, for instance, where you can get the truth and get the unvarnished truth, a lot of people wouldn't ever know the truth, because if they're listening to ABC or CBS or NBC, you know what they're getting. They're getting one side.
Right. No, I mean, look, I agree. I mean, I started out in local radio and local television, where again the bias is not nearly what you would see at the national level. I take a lot of pride in my background as a investigative journalist,
Sure.
And to see is not just fawning. It seems like so many of these reporters, editors, news directors are fully vested.
That's right.
In the re-election of Barack Obama. The NRA's campaign this year is all in, and it seems like the media has largely gone all in for the re-election of Barack Obama.
Well, I'm afraid that's true, and then it's true about Elizabeth Warren as well. As you know, most of the bulk of her contributions are coming from out of state. Where are they coming from? Has the mainstream media ever told readers where she's getting her money? Is it union funds, Soros's funds, Hollywood funds? It's all of the above. Who knows? But we know that this is a campaign that's being run by the left-wing cabal.
Well, listen, Edward, I really appreciate you coming on the program, sir. Hope we can do it again.
I hope so too, Cam. It's been a great pleasure talking to you.